Hey guys, Lord Naren White here, the Holy Ghost, the one true God. Back with you with the next video in our series, Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Without further ado, returning to Great Expectations. Yes, but my dear Handel, Herbert went on, as if we had been talking instead of silent. It's having been so strongly rooted in the breast of a boy whom nature and circumstances made so romantic, renders it very serious. Think of her bringing up, and think of Miss Havisham. Think of what she is herself. Now I am repulsive, and you abominate me. This may lead to miserable things. I know it, Herbert, said I, with my head still turned away, but I can't help it. You can't detach yourself? No, impossible. You can't try, Handel. No, impossible. Well, said Herbert, getting up with a lively shake as if he had been asleep, and stirring the fire. Now I'll endeavor to make myself agreeable again. So he went round the room and shook the curtains out, put the chairs in their places, tidied the books, and so forth that were lying about, looked into the hall, peeped into the letter box, shut the door, and came back to his chair by the fire, where he sat down, nursing his left leg in both arms. I was going to say a word or two, Handel, concerning my father and my father's son. I am afraid it is scarcely necessary for my father's son to remark that my father's establishment is not particularly brilliant in its housekeeping. There's always plenty, Herbert, said I, to say something encouraging. Oh, yes. And so the dustman says, I believe with the strongest approval. And so does the marine store shop in the back street. Gravely, Handel, for the subject is grave enough. You know how it is, as well as I do. I suppose there was a time once when my father had not given matters up. But if ever there was, the time is gone. May I ask you if you have ever had an opportunity of remarking, down in your part of the country, that the children of not exactly suitable marriages are most particularly anxious to be married? This was such a singular question that I asked him in return. Is it so? I don't know, said Herbert. That's what I want to know, because it is decidedly the case with us. My poor sister Charlotte, who was next me, and died before she was 14, was a striking example. Little Jane is the same. In her desire to be matrimonially established, you might suppose her to have passed her short existence in the perpetual contemplation of domestic bliss. Little Alec in a frock has already made arrangements for his union with a suitable young person at Kew. And indeed, I think we are all engaged except the baby. Then you are? Said I. I am, said Herbert, but it's a secret. I assured him of my keeping the secret, and begged to be favored with further particulars. He had spoken so sensibly and feelingly of my weakness that I wanted to know something about his strength. May I ask the name? I said. Name of Clara, said Herbert. Live in London? Yes, perhaps I ought to mention, said Herbert, who had become curiously crestfallen and meek since we entered on the interesting theme, that she is rather below my mother's nonsensical family notions. Her father had to do with the victualling of passenger ships. I think he was a species of purser. What is he now? Said I. He's an invalid now, replied Herbert. Living on the first floor, said Herbert, which was not at all what I meant, for I had intended my question to apply to his means. I have never seen him, for he has always kept his room overhead. since I have known Clara, but I have heard him constantly. He makes tremendous roars, and pegs at the floor with some frightful instrument. In looking at me and then laughing heartily, Herbert for the time recovered his usual lively manner. "Don't you expect to see him?" said I. "Oh, yes, I constantly expect to see him," returned Herbert, "because I never hear him, without expecting him to come tumbling through the ceiling. But I don't know how long the rafters may hold." When he had once more laughed heartily, he became meek again, and told me that the moment he began to realize capital, it was his intention to marry the young lady. He added as a self-evident proposition, engenderingly low spirits. Engendering low spirits. "But you can't marry, while you're looking about." As we contemplated the fire, and as I thought, what a difficult vision to realize this same capital was, I put my hands in my pockets. I folded a piece of paper in one of them, attracting my attention. I opened it and found it to be the playbill I had received from Joe, relative to the celebrated provincial amateur of Rossian renown. "And bless my heart," I involuntarily added aloud, "it's tonight." This changed the subject in an instant, and made us hurriedly resolve to go to the play. So when I had pledged myself to comfort and abet Herbert in the affairs of his heart, by all practical and impracticable means, and when Herbert had told me that his affianced already knew me by reputation, that I should be presented to her, and when we had warmly shaken hands upon our mutual confidence, we blew out our candles, made up our fire, locked our door, and issued forth in quest of Mr. Wopsle and Denmark. Next chapter. Chapter 31. On our arrival in Denmark, we found the king and queen of that country elevated in 2 armchairs on a kitchen table, holding a court. The whole of the Danish nobility were in attendance, consisting of a noble boy in wash-leather boots, of a gigantic ancestor, a venerable peer with a dirty face, who seemed to have risen from the people late in life, and the Danish chivalry with a comb in its hair, and a pair of white silk legs, and presenting on the whole a feminine appearance. My gifted townsman stood gloomily apart, with folded arms, and I could have wished that his curls and forehead had been more probable. Several curious little circumstances transpired as the action proceeded. The late king of that country not only appeared to have been troubled with a cough at the time of his decease, but to have taken it with him to the tomb, and to have it brought back. The royal phantom also carried a ghostly manuscript round its truncheon, to which it had the appearance of occasionally referring, and that too with an air of anxiety and tendency to lose the place of reference, which were suggestive of a state of morality. It was this, I conceive, which led to the shades being advised by the gallery to turn over, a recommendation which it took extremely ill. It was likewise to be noted of this majestic spirit, that whereas it always appeared with an air of having been out a long time and walked an immense distance, it perceptibly came from a closely contiguous wall. This occasioned its terrors to be received derisively. We'll go ahead and stop there for this week. As usual, I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. please like, comment, and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel. Light be with you all. Take care, and thanks again.